English is something many people want. I remember when I was a young student, like you, I wanted to speak English well. I wanted to be fluent, but I was shy and made many mistakes. One day, a teacher said to me, "You can be fluent if you practice every day." This sentence changed my life. When you want something, you must work for it. Fluency does not come in one day. It is like planting a tree. You put the seed in the ground, water it, and give it sunshine. Every day, you care for it, and then one day, the tree grows big and strong. The same is true for fluency. One day, a student came to me. She was very sad. She said, "Teacher, I want to speak English, but I always forget the words." I smiled and said, "Do not worry, fluency is not about remembering all the words, it is about practice." She looked at me with hope in her eyes. "But how can I practice?" she asked. I told her, "Practice is everywhere. You can practice by talking to your friends, by listening to stories, by singing songs. You can practice every moment of the day." I remember when I was in school, I loved stories. I would listen to them every night. My teacher would read to us, and I would repeat the words. At first, I was slow, but with time, I became faster. I learned new words, and my confidence grew. Another student asked me, "Teacher, is fluency only about speaking fast?" I said, "No, fluency is about speaking clearly. It is about making others understand you. You do not have to speak quickly, you have to speak with confidence." There was once a boy in my class who spoke very fast, but no one could understand him. I told him, "Slow down, speak clearly, use simple words." He listened, and soon everyone could understand him. He became more confident and enjoyed speaking in English. Fluency is like a journey you take one step at a time. You do not rush, you enjoy the process. One day, you look back and see how far you have come. I have seen many students who were afraid to speak at first, but with time and practice, they became fluent. There is a secret to gaining fluency. It is a simple secret: listen. Listen to others speak English, listen to stories, listen to songs, listen to conversations. The more you listen, the more you learn. I once knew a girl who loved music. She would listen to English songs every day. Soon, she started singing along. Her fluency improved because she was listening and repeating. Another important thing is to not be afraid of mistakes. Mistakes are our best teachers. I remember a student who was very afraid of making mistakes. She would not speak because she thought others would laugh at her. I told her, "Do not worry about mistakes, every mistake is a lesson." One day, she decided to speak in class. She made many mistakes, but she did not stop. She kept speaking, and after a while, she became better. She told me, "Teacher, I am not afraid anymore." That was the day she started to become fluent. Fluency is also about thinking in English. When you think in English, you start to speak more naturally. I once had a student who always translated from his language to English. This made him slow and confused. I told him, try to think in English, even when you are alone. Think in English. He tried this, and slowly he became more fluent. There was another student who loved to talk. He would talk about anything and everything, but he had a problem. He would start a sentence in English and then switch to his native language. I told him, try to stay in English, even if you don't know a word. Try to explain it in English. This helped him stay focused, and soon he was speaking only in English. Reading is another way to gain fluency. When you read, you see how sentences are formed, and you learn new words. I remember when I was learning English, would read simple books. Every time I found a new word, I would write it down. Then, would try to use it in a sentence. This helped me remember the words and use them when I spoke. One day, a student came to me with a book. She said, "Teacher, I read this book, but I did not understand everything." I told her, that is okay. The more you read, the more you will understand. She continued to read every day. After some time, she came to me and said, "Now I understand much more." Her fluency improved because she was reading and learning new things every day. Fluency is also about listening to yourself. Sometimes, you need to record yourself speaking, then listen to it and see where you can improve. I once had a student who did this every day. She would record herself reading a story, then she would listen to the recording and find areas where she could improve. This practice made her more aware of her speech, and soon she became fluent. Practicing with a friend is another great way to gain fluency. I had two students who were best friends. They decided to speak only in English with each other every day. They would have conversations in English, helping each other with words they didn't know. Over time, both of them became very fluent. They learned from each other and enjoyed the process. Fluency also comes from using the language in real-life situations. When you go to the market, try to speak in English. When you are with friends, try to use English. The more you use the language, the more fluent you become. I had a student who worked in a shop. He decided to speak only in English with his customers. At first, it was difficult, but with time, he became more confident and fluent. Fluency is also about being curious. When you hear a new word, don't ignore it. Find out what it means and try to use it in your next conversation. I remember a student who was very curious. Every time he heard a new word, he would ask me what it meant. Then, he would try to use that word as much as possible. His vocabulary grew, and so did his fluency. It is also important to have a goal. Ask yourself, why do I want to be fluent in English? When you have a clear goal, you are more motivated. I knew a student who wanted to travel to an English-speaking country. This was her goal. Every day, she practiced speaking English because she wanted to be ready for her trip. Her goal kept her motivated, and she became fluent before she traveled. I also tell my students to enjoy the process. Fluency does not come overnight, it takes time. But if you enjoy the journey, it becomes easier. I once had a student who loved watching English movies. He would watch one movie every night. At first, he used subtitles, but after a while, he started watching without them. He enjoyed the movies, and at the same time, he was improving his fluency. Fluency is about repetition. The more you repeat, the better you become. I remember a student who loved to repeat sentences. He would hear something in class and then say it over and over again. This helped him remember the sentences, and soon he was using them in his daily conversations. Speaking with different people also helps with fluency. Every person has a different way of speaking. When you talk to different people, you learn different styles of speaking. I once had a student who was very shy. He only spoke to me. I encouraged him to speak to other students. At first, he was nervous, but with time, he became more comfortable. He learned new ways of expressing himself, and his fluency improved. Sometimes, it is good to practice speaking about topics you love. When you talk about something you enjoy, you are more passionate, and the words come more easily. I had a student who loved football. Every day, he would talk to me about football. This helped him become more fluent because he was speaking about something he was excited about. Fluency also comes from understanding that it's okay to not know everything. Sometimes, you may not know a word, and that is okay. Try to explain it in another way. I had a student who always wanted to know the exact word for everything. If he didn't know the word, he would stop speaking. I told him, if you don't know the word, try to describe it. This helped him keep the conversation going, even when he didn't know the exact word. A student once asked me, "Teacher, how long will it take to become fluent?" I told him, it depends on how much you practice. Some people become fluent in a few months, while for others, it takes longer. But the important thing is to keep going. Do not stop. This student practiced every day and soon saw progress. Sometimes, it is helpful to practice in front of a mirror. When you see yourself speaking, you become more aware of your expressions and gestures. I had a student who was very shy. She did not like to speak in front of others. I told her to practice in front of a mirror. This helped her become more confident, and soon she was speaking more fluently. Another student asked me, "Teacher, what should I do if I forget a word while speaking?" I told him, do not stop. Keep talking. Sometimes the word will come to you later. If not, use another word. This helped him stay calm when speaking, and he didn't worry about forgetting words. It is also important to take breaks. Sometimes your brain needs rest. After a long day of practice, it is good to relax. I knew a student who practiced all the time. She became very tired and started to feel frustrated. I told her, take a break, relax, come back tomorrow with a fresh mind. After taking breaks, she felt better, and her fluency continued to improve. Fluency is also about using the language in creative ways. You can write a short story, sing a song, or even make a video. I had a student who loved to write. She would write short stories in English every day. This helped her practice new words and sentences. Soon, she started reading her stories aloud, and her fluency improved. Another way to practice is by teaching others. When you teach, you learn even more. I had a student who was very fluent. She decided to help her friends who were not as fluent. She would teach them new words and practice speaking with them. This not only helped her friends but also made her even more fluent. Sometimes, it helps to have a routine. Set a time every day to practice speaking English. I had a student who would practice every morning for 30 minutes. This was his routine. He followed it every day, and soon he became more fluent. A routine helps you stay disciplined and ensures that you practice regularly. It is also important to be patient with yourself. Fluency takes time. I had a student who was very impatient. He wanted to be fluent quickly, but when he did not see progress, he became frustrated. I told him, "Be patient. You are making progress, even if it is slow." He listened to me and continued to practice. Over time, he saw improvement and became more confident. Fluency is not just about speaking, it is also about listening. When you listen carefully, you learn how to respond. I had a student who was a good listener. He would listen carefully before he spoke. This made his responses clear and thoughtful. Listening is a big part of becoming fluent. Another important thing is to stay positive. Learning a language can be challenging, but a positive attitude makes it easier. I had a student who was always positive. Even when she made mistakes, she would smile and try again. This positive attitude helped her stay motivated and eventually become fluent. Fluency is also about being open to new experiences. Sometimes, you may need to step out of your comfort zone. I had a student who was very comfortable speaking in class, but shy outside of class. I encouraged her to speak to people outside of school. She was nervous at first, but with time, she became more confident and fluent. It is also helpful to learn from others who are fluent. Watch how they speak, listen to their intonation, and learn from their style. I had a student who admired a famous English speaker. She would watch his videos and try to imitate his style. This helped her improve her own fluency. Fluency is a mix of many things: practice, patience, listening, speaking, and even making mistakes. Each part is important. I once told my students, fluency is like cooking a meal. You need different ingredients, and you need to mix them well. This analogy helped them understand that every part of learning is important. It is also important to celebrate small victories. Every time you learn a new word or speak without hesitation, celebrate it. I had a student who would celebrate every small achievement. This made her feel proud and motivated her to keep going. Celebrating small victories helps you see your progress and stay motivated. One day, a student asked me, "Teacher, what if I get stuck while speaking?" I told him, it is okay to pause and think. Take a deep breath and then continue. This advice helped him stay calm when he faced challenges while speaking. He learned to manage his pauses, and his fluency improved. Fluency is also about practicing what you learn. If you learn a new word today, try to use it tomorrow. I had a student who would learn a new word every day and then use it in a sentence. This practice helped him remember the words and use them naturally in conversation. Another important thing is to learn from your surroundings. Sometimes, you can learn English from signs, posters, and even menus. I had a student who loved to explore the city. Every time he saw an English sign, he would read it and try to understand it. This helped him learn new words and phrases that he could use in conversation. It is also helpful to be curious about the culture behind the language. English is spoken in many countries, and each country has its own way of speaking. I had a student who was very interested in British English. He would watch British shows and learn about their culture. This helped him understand different ways of speaking and made him more fluent. Fluency is not just about words, it is also about body language. When you speak, your body language adds meaning to your words. I had a student who was very good with body language. Even when he spoke simple sentences, his body language made him seem more fluent. This helped him communicate more effectively. Sometimes, it is good to challenge yourself. Try to speak about a topic you do not know well. This helps you learn new words and ideas. I had a student who loved sports, but he decided to talk about science. At first, it was difficult, but with time, he learned new words and became more fluent in discussing different topics. Fluency also comes from being relaxed. When you are relaxed, your words flow more easily. I had a student who was very tense when speaking. I told him to take deep breaths before he spoke. This helped him relax, and his fluency improved. Another way to practice is by asking questions. When you ask questions, you start conversations. I had a student who was very good at asking questions. He would ask his classmates about their day, their hobbies, and their interests. This practice helped him become more fluent because he was always engaged in conversations. It is also important to reflect on your progress. Every few weeks, take a moment to think about how much you have improved. I had a student who kept a journal. Every week, he would write about his progress in learning English. This helped him see how far he had come and motivated him to keep going. Fluency is also about being flexible. Sometimes, you may need to change the way you say something to make it clearer. I had a student who was very good at this. If someone did not understand him, he would change his sentence until they did. This skill made him more fluent because he could adapt to different situations. Another important thing is to stay connected with other learners. When you learn with others, you can share your experiences and learn from each other. I had a student who joined an English club. Every week, she would meet with other learners and practice speaking. This helped her stay motivated and improve her fluency. It is also helpful to set small goals. Instead of saying, "I want to be fluent," say, "I want to learn 5 new words this week." I had a student who set small goals every week. These goals were easy to achieve, and each time she reached one, she felt more confident. Over time, these small goals added up, and she became more fluent. Fluency is also about being persistent. Even when it is difficult, do not give up. I had a student who struggled with English for a long time. He wanted to give up many times, but he kept going. One day, he realized that he was speaking more fluently than before. His persistence paid off. Sometimes, it is good to revisit what you have learned. Go back to old lessons and review them. I had a student who would review her notes every month. This helped her remember what she had learned and made her more confident in using the language. Another important thing is to stay open-minded. Sometimes, you may hear different ways of saying the same thing. I had a student who was very curious about different dialects of English. He would learn how people from different places spoke. This made him more adaptable and fluent in different situations. Fluency also comes from enjoying the language. Find something you love in English, whether it is a book, a movie, or a song. I had a student who loved English poetry. She would read poems every day and try to understand them. This made her more passionate about the language and helped her become more fluent. It is also important to ask for feedback. When you speak, ask someone to tell you how you did. I had a student who would always ask me for feedback after speaking. This helped him see where he could improve and what he was doing well. Feedback is a valuable tool in becoming more fluent. Another way to improve fluency is by using flashcards. Write down new words on flashcards and review them regularly. I had a student who made flashcards for every new word he learned. He would review them every day. This helped him remember the words and use them in conversation. Fluency is also about being comfortable with silence. Sometimes, you need a moment to think before you speak. I had a student who was afraid of silence. He thought he had to speak immediately. I told him, it is okay to pause and think. This helped him feel more comfortable and speak more clearly. It is also helpful to learn phrases instead of just individual words. When you learn a phrase, you learn how words work together. I had a student who focused on learning phrases. This made her sentences more natural and fluent. Fluency is also about being curious about the world. When you learn about different cultures and ideas, you have more to talk about. I had a student who loved to learn about history. The road to fluency is not always easy, but it is always rewarding. Just like a river flows steadily towards the ocean, your efforts will carry you closer to your goal. Fluency is not just about speaking with ease, but about connecting with the world and sharing your unique voice. Every word you learn, every sentence you speak, is a bridge to new understanding and new friendships. So keep learning, keep speaking, and let your voice be heard. And now I have a question for you. What inspires you to keep going on your journey to fluency? I would love to hear your thoughts.